What you are about to hear is not ordinary encouragement. This is not a few nice words meant to make you feel good for 5 minutes. This is a recalibration of the way you think, speak, walk, act, and decide. It is a new operating system for your mind, one that will demand more from you and deliver more to you. Most men go their entire lives without realizing this truth. The direction of your life bends to the expectations you hold about it. What you believe, what you assume to be inevitable, quietly shapes the choices you make and the actions you take until your reality reflects those assumptions. This isn't destiny playing games with you. This is focus. This is your mind locking on to what it thinks is true and dragging your behavior into alignment until you make that truth real. So here is a question that changes everything. What if you simply decided right now that everything is aligning for you, even when it feels difficult, even when the evidence is invisible, even when every external signal is telling you to give up? What if you chose to move through life as though the victory was guaranteed, as if the opportunity was already waiting, as if the ending had already been written in your favor? That is not naive fantasy. It is deliberate mental design. The most impactful people in history did not wait for proof to believe. They believed first and acted as though they were right until the proof appeared. Henry Ford didn't cross his fingers and hope the world would one day adopt his vision of the automobile. He committed. He built when others mocked him. He acted as though the world would catch up, and eventually it did. Thomas Edison did not see 10,000 failures as reasons to stop. He saw them as necessary steps to reach the result he already believed belonged to him. He carried the image of the light bulb in his mind long before he held it in his hand. Charles Schwab didn't guide entire industries through timid speculation. He operated with absolute conviction, with such faith in his plan that it inspired others to follow him. And Andrew Carnegie, who rewrote the story of wealth and industry in America, did not creep forward wondering whether success would arrive. He moved with the certainty that the results were already in motion. That is how empires are forged. Why not you? Why not now? Why wait for another year, another season, another sign? You've been giving hesitation far too much room in your life. You've entertained too many thoughts rooted in fear. You've delayed enough moves, swallowed enough words, and watched enough opportunities pass by because you were not sure. It is time to delete that version of yourself, the part of you that second guesses, that overanalyzes, that retreats when life gets intense. He cannot coexist with the man who moves with certainty. Two masters cannot be served at once. One mindset must end so the other can take full control. So here is the invitation. Step into the belief that everything is moving in your favor, not because life owes it to you, but because that belief makes you unshakable. When you operate as though success is inevitable, your movements gain weight. Your words carry authority. You stop negotiating with fear and begin directing your life. This is a reset, a complete mental reboot. It is not to be heard once and forgotten. It must be replayed, spoken aloud, written into your mind until your subconscious accepts it as law. When that happens, doubt loses its strength, fear starves, and confidence becomes your default. This is not a pep talk. This is psychological warfare against the version of you that holds back. That old version has to die. So listen carefully, because we are about to build a new pattern for your thoughts and actions. Ask yourself this: what if everything? Yes, everything worked out. Not just the easy moments, not just the wins, not just the convenient pieces, but every setback, every betrayal, every lonely night, every delay, every painful turn that seemed like it was holding you back. What if all of it was required to shape the exact version of you capable of holding the dream you've been chasing? Most people never let themselves think that way. They expect disaster. They assume the worst. They rehearse tragedy in their minds over and over until their behavior unconsciously aligns with the very outcomes they fear. They waste their energy worrying about collapse instead of building toward success. But there is another way to live, a way that doesn't demand perfection, that doesn't need external hype, that simply asks for one thing: the decision to believe before you see. Because belief is not a reaction to proof. It is a choice that creates proof. Your subconscious is not an opponent. It does not argue with you. It absorbs what you consistently feed it and organizes your perception around that story. Tell yourself that nothing ever works for you, and soon you will only notice evidence to support that claim. Your mind will filter out opportunities because it is too busy proving your hopeless assumption correct. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up, no matter what your bank account says, no matter who walked out on you, no matter how uncertain the road looks, and whispering to yourself, everything is coming together for me, and then living in that state, building like the outcome is locked in, moving like the foundation is already secure, acting like the finish line is guaranteed. That one habit, repeated daily, would transform your life at the root. Because when you assume life is conspiring in your favor, you stop panicking, you stop rushing, you stay calm in the wait. You hold steady when nothing seems to be happening. That is not delusion. That is leadership over your own state. Edison famously said he never failed. He simply discovered 10,000 ways that didn't work. That is the posture of a man who knows the result is inevitable. He never asked if it was possible. He only asked what else he could try. That difference between the man who quits after 3 tries and the man who persists after 10,000 is what separates those who make history from those who watch it happen. Ford's investors laughed at his plan to put a car in every driveway. He didn't argue. He didn't waste his time begging them to understand. He moved forward as though it were already a done deal. That is not arrogance. That is disciplined assumption. It is the decision to keep walking long before the world claps for you. Weak minds wait for evidence. Strong minds create evidence. Let's revisit the question, what if everything works out? What if the wait was necessary? What if the rejection was protection? What if what you call a setback was actually a reroute guiding you exactly where you needed to go? When this becomes your standard operating mode, you stop fearing uncertainty. You stop dreading the unknown. You start welcoming it because you recognize it as a sign that something bigger is building. Your job then becomes simple: keep moving. Keep building when no one is watching. Keep acting as though the victory is already yours, even if every scoreboard around you says you are losing. Because those scoreboards cannot measure your conviction, cannot track your persistence, cannot record what is forming behind the curtain. Say this to yourself right now. I act as though everything is aligning for me. I do not beg for proof. I do not panic. I prepare. I build. I stay. I finish. This is not empty affirmation. This is the construction of a new self. This is mental armor. Once you make this your default, hesitation evaporates. Fear loses its grip. Your movements gain gravity. There is one quality that separates the drifter from the builder: clarity of purpose. An aim so unshakable, so laser-focused, that your mind cannot escape it even on the worst days. This is not a vague wish, not a midnight journal entry that gets forgotten by morning. This is a decision carved into your being, protected like a sacred fire. Without it, your energy leaks into 1,000 meaningless tasks. Your focus scatters. You chase distractions and call it productivity. You mistake business for progress. But the moment you become a man with a definite aim, everything changes. Your mornings stop being random. Your days stop being left to chance. You stop wondering what the world will give you and start commanding it to deliver what you've already decided. That is power. That is the birth of transformation. Every man who shifted the course of history had this one thing in common: they knew exactly why they were moving. Ford didn't just want money. He wanted to change how humanity traveled. Schwab didn't just want a job. He wanted to build something monumental, and his certainty made others follow. Lincoln didn't stumble into greatness. He fixed his mind on a vision so strong that even a divided nation couldn't move him. Do you know why you're here? Do you know exactly what you must build before your time runs out? If you don't, no habit, no system, no motivational speech will hold. Your momentum will collapse the second life gets loud. Your purpose is the anchor. Without it, you drift. With it, you are unstoppable. Write it down, one line, not 10, not 20, one single defining aim, and then repeat it daily. Speak it until it is louder than every competing thought. Live as though nothing matters more. This is where confidence is born, knowing exactly where your steps are leading. Then every book you read, every risk you take, every word you speak, every hour you spend begins to serve that aim. Suddenly you are immune to comparison because your eyes are locked on your own mission. You no longer fear failure because you recognize it as part of the build. And then comes faith, not the kind you wait for, but the kind you forge. Faith is not a gift. It is not a feeling that floats down from the sky. It is the product of repetition. It is hammered into your subconscious by word, by action, by consistent rehearsal until it no longer requires evidence. That is why so many believe in failure. They have practiced imagining it every day. You must do the opposite. Speak power over your life. Speak certainty. See yourself winning in your mind. Every word is a command to your subconscious, and it obeys. Burn the bridge. Remove the escape routes. Kill the quiet excuse that says, I can always quit later. No, you can't. Not anymore. That version of you is gone. The moment you decide there is no way back, your mind unlocks a level of focus most men never touch. Carnegie wanted men who had no plan B, and you must demand the same of yourself. And do not attempt this in isolation. Align yourself with men who sharpen you, who call you higher, who refuse to let you drift. Build a mastermind around you, not of casual friends, but of those who understand the mission. Meet, speak, exchange vision, demand more from each other. Protect your environment like it is sacred, because it is. One weak voice can destroy momentum. One doubting presence can drain your conviction. Choose carefully. Above all, believe first, long before the evidence, long before the applause, long before anyone agrees with you. Believe when it is still invisible. That is the price of greatness. Lincoln didn't wait for a guarantee before he led. Ford didn't wait for approval before he built. Edison didn't wait for success before he kept going. They acted as though the victory was theirs and then worked until reality caught up. That is what you must do now. Act, move, speak, decide. Walk forward as if the result is locked in, because it is. Long before roads were paved or skylines were filled with towers, the men who built empires already carried their visions as if they were tangible. To them, it was finished before the first brick was ever laid. Edison didn't wait for proof that a light bulb was possible. He created the proof by refusing to stop. Carnegie didn't wait for permission to think big. He made the world give him permission by doing what others said couldn't be done. Schwab didn't sit idle until someone validated him. He stepped forward before anyone called his name. That is the essence of faith. It arrives before the evidence. Fear does the opposite. Fear insists on seeing a guarantee first. Faith moves first and lets reality catch up. Every man lives by one voice or the other. Fear waits, fear scrolls, fear counts every danger while forgetting every reward. Faith acts, faith trusts. Faith moves even when the outcome is hidden. And if you think this is just feel-good optimism, you're missing the deeper truth. Your subconscious doesn't obey what's factual. It obeys what's repeated, what's emotionalized, what's burned in. When you feed it fear, it designs a life built to avoid pain. When you feed it belief, it designs a life built to create. That's why suggestion is so powerful. You don't just hear affirmations. You speak them until your nervous system believes them. You say them with emotion until they stop sounding like words and start sounding like identity. You don't just declare that you believe, you demonstrate it. You act as if it's already real. You refuse to sit still waiting to feel ready. You step as though you know who you are becoming, and you make choices that match that identity. Belief is not simply a state of mind, it's a state of movement. Every time you act on belief without proof, every time you hold yourself to the standard you spoke about, every time you follow through when no one is watching, you reforge the idea you hold of yourself. You say to your own mind, I don't need evidence. I am the evidence. Here's a law that never fails. Belief comes before performance. You cannot outperform the picture you carry of yourself. The question is not whether you're capable. The question is, what picture are you rehearsing in your head? What phrases are you speaking silently every day? Are you telling yourself a story that keeps you small, or one that forces you forward? Because the world doesn't reward potential, it rewards certainty. And certainty cannot be faked. It must be forged. Forging happens through daily ritual, through relentless repetition. Morning after morning, you speak your outcome as though it's already happened. Night after night, you evaluate your choices against the man you said you would be. Hour by hour, you refuse to betray the vision you've committed to. At first, fear still whispers. Doubt still stands at the door, but faith starts to drown them out. Decision starts to override hesitation, until finally belief becomes so loud, so undeniable, that you walk through life with a different gravity. This is not magic. It is not superstition. It is how every towering achievement begins, in the invisible realm of conviction, before a single eye can see it. The vision is repeated so often, felt so deeply, acted on so consistently that the world eventually has no option but to acknowledge it. Choose carefully what you will repeat, because you are programming your mind whether you intend to or not. Build your foundation on faith, and let your actions become the visible proof. What separates the few who build legacies from the masses who spend their whole lives in limbo is the ability to choose and not retreat. You cannot stumble into greatness by accident. You must choose your path and stay with it. One decision carried through relentlessly becomes the line that divides those who make history from those who merely observe. Indecision is the breeding ground of fear. Every moment you delay a choice, doubt grows louder. Hesitation drains your energy, clouds your clarity, weakens your conviction. That is why you must train yourself to decide quickly and adjust slowly. Henry Ford was a man who did not poll the crowd before acting. His decisions were forged with finality. When his own engineers swore that an 8-cylinder engine in a single block was impossible, he refused to accept their conclusion. He told them to build it anyway, and eventually they did. His decision was stronger than their doubt. Schwab rose to the highest position in Carnegie's empire, not merely because he was capable, but because he was decisive under pressure. He embraced the responsibility others shied away from. This is the truth most men miss. Success is not reserved for the most brilliant or the most connected. It belongs to those most committed. Carnegie did not build his empire through endless hesitation. He made a single choice about the life he would build and then directed every action toward that end. Your life works the same way. Until you decide who you are, the world will happily hand you a dozen roles you never chose. But when you choose with finality, the world must rearrange around that choice. Indecision keeps the old self alive. If you keep slipping back into the same cycles, it's not because you're weak. It's because you haven't made the irreversible choice to leave them. And the longer you postpone it, the easier it is to postpone again. Soon life becomes an endless loop of almost. But when you commit fully, when you burn the bridges back to the old way, your energy changes. Your mind locks in. Your actions align. So make one bold decision today and seal it. If it's health, commit. If it's business, commit. If it's your future self, commit. When doubt whispers to delay, you refuse because the decision has already been made. Edison didn't experiment because he was curious. He experimented because he had already decided the light would exist. Over 10,000 attempts were not tests. They were executions of a decision. Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation not because it was popular, but because his soul had settled the matter. Such decisions shape history. You are waiting for permission, but no one is coming. The great ones didn't wait. They acted. Decide now. Speak it. Write it. Live it. And never revisit it. There is another law most ignore, the law of compensation. It is as sure as gravity. It rewards every man in proportion to the value he contributes. Most people misunderstand this. They think they are paid for time. They are not. They are paid for value. And value is measured by how far one goes beyond what is required. The average man matches the minimum standard. The exceptional man exceeds it so consistently that reward becomes inevitable. Schwab climbed from humble beginnings not because he had a better education, but because he made himself impossible to ignore. He gave more than was asked of him. He became the man who solved problems before anyone else noticed them. Carnegie practiced the same principle, volunteering for the most difficult tasks, taking on more responsibility than was assigned, not for applause, but for growth. That growth positioned him for opportunity. You don't get promoted by requesting a raise. You get promoted by becoming indispensable. The market doesn't reward intentions, only impact. That is why you must make your home on the extra mile, the place where few ever walk. Most will do what they are told and stop. The rare few will deliver excellence without being asked, own mistakes they didn't cause, improve processes no one asked them to improve, and the world cannot ignore them for long. Edison was relentless not because someone was clocking his hours, but because he had an obsession with creating value. Ford didn't just build a car. He reimagined the way it was made so the world could afford one. The ones who rise are the ones who refuse to settle for good enough. So ask yourself, where can you give more today? Where can you sharpen a skill without being reminded? Where can you bring excellence when mediocrity would pass? Do it again tomorrow. Do it until it becomes who you are. Soon your very name will become associated with reliability and certainty, and that is the highest currency in existence. But you cannot rise alone. Your energy must invite trust. Your presence must draw people in. Influence built on force collapses under its own weight. Influence built on character becomes magnetic. Carnegie's fortune was not built merely by strategy, but by the way he made others feel seen and valued. Schwab's leadership was legendary because he smiled, he encouraged, he inspired his men to give their best without coercion. Edison filled his labs with optimism so potent that even after countless failures, his team stayed motivated. A pleasing personality is not a gift, it is forged through discipline. It is built by learning to speak with calm authority, by showing genuine interest, by radiating certainty instead of panic. You don't fake it. You refine yourself until you become a man others want to follow. The most powerful person in the room is rarely the loudest, but the one whose words carry weight when he finally speaks. Repetition installs identity. Hearing this once is not enough. One motivational rush cannot undo years of hesitation. You must repeat it daily. You must rehearse who you are becoming until it feels natural. Your subconscious listens to what is consistent, not what is dramatic. Replace the old loop of hesitation with a new loop of certainty. Say it daily until it stops sounding like hope and starts sounding like truth. I move without delay. I act with certainty. Everything is aligning for me, and from this moment, act as though it is already done. Walk into the gym like the result already belongs to you. Step into your work like the breakthrough has already occurred. Speak like a man who does not need permission. You are the permission. You are the signal. You are the breakthrough. Let them wonder what shifted. Let them feel it when you enter the room. You do not need to explain. You simply live as the man who has already become what he used to chase. And if you forget, you come back to this message, play it again, and reinforce the identity you chose. This is not just inspiration. It is installation. You rehearse it until hesitation dies and certainty becomes your default.